Hi, this is attorney James Betzold with the Prima Law Podcast. Our topic for today is the H-1b visa. Now, this is the type of visa that's employment-based, so it allows an immigrant to come to the United States and to work in a highly skilled job for a certain amount of time. Now, this has been a topic in the news recently because of the debate over whether that program should even continue, with individuals like Elon Musk saying, yes, it should, we need it, I use it all the time, and Vivek Ramaswamy in agreement. And on the other side of the argument are some of the traditional Trump supporters who say that this is bad for American workers. So we're gonna dive in deep because I know we hear these things in the news sometimes, and it's hard to have a good context or a good background of factual information about what the whole debate involves. We've designed this podcast for your edification and listening pleasure. Enjoy. Our podcast today is sponsored by Prima Law, which is for immigration attorneys and immigration professionals. It is immigration case management software. Everything from the forms to predefined case types, your checklists, your client portal, everything you need to run an effective immigration practice. We're also brought to you by Bella Legal Assistance. Now, this is immigration paralegals who we've trained in our law firm to work in your law firm. You can find us at bella.legal. Lastly, we're brought to you by Visa Feliz, and that is our immigration law firm. So if you're listening to this podcast because you're interested in immigration, you're interested maybe in immigrating or bringing a family member to the United States, we can help you. Simply give us a call at 833-VISA-FELIZ or find us on the web at visafeliz.com.
H-1b visas, a pathway to innovation or a threat to American jobs. Today we're diving into this controversial program that's causing rifts even within Trump's inner circle.
Wow, that's quite the opening. What's sparked this debate now?
Well, it's Trump's apparent change of heart on the issue. During his first term, he took several actions to restrict the H-1b program, including suspending new visas during the pandemic. But now he's calling it a great program and says he's always been in favor of the visas. It's causing quite a stir among his supporters.
That does sound like quite a shift. What exactly is the H-1b visa program?
The H-1b is a temporary work visa that allows U.S. employers to hire foreign workers in specialty occupations, typically jobs that require at least a bachelor's degree. It's particularly popular in the tech industry, but it's also used in fields like healthcare, finance, and academia. The idea is to fill gaps in the U.S. labor market, especially in STEM fields, where there's often a shortage of qualified American workers.
And how many of these visas are we talking about? Is it a significant number?
Oh, it's substantial. For example, Amazon had the most H-1b petitions approved for initial employment in fiscal year 2024, with 3,071 approvals. Google came in eighth with 1,058 approvals. And it's not just the tech giant. Companies like Infosys, Cognizant, and even Tesla are among the top employers of H-1b visa holders.
That does sound like a lot. I can see why it might be controversial. Are there concerns about these foreign workers taking jobs away from America?
That's definitely one of the main criticisms of the program. Critics argue that it's being abused to bring in cheaper foreign labor, undercutting American workers. There have been cases where U.S. workers have been laid off and replaced by H-1b visa holders, which understandably causes a lot of anger and resentment.
But I'm guessing the companies using these visas would argue that's not the case?
Exact. Supporters of the program argue that H-1b workers actually complement U.S. workers rather than replacing them. They say these highly skilled immigrants bring innovation and expertise that helps create more jobs for everyone. And there's some research to back that up. A study found that between 2005 and 2018, an increase in H-1b workers in a particular occupation was associated with a decrease in the unemployment rate in that field.
That's interesting. It suggests that rather than taking jobs away, these workers might actually be helping to grow the economy. But I can see how that might be a tough sell to someone who's lost their job or is struggling to find work in their field.
Absolutely. And that's part of what makes this such a contentious issue. It's not just about economic data, it's about people's livelihood and their sense of security. Now, let's talk about how the program actually works. There's a cap on the number of visas issued each year, 65,000, plus an additional 20,000 for those with advanced degrees from U.S. institutions. And that cap is usually reached pretty quickly. For fiscal year 2024, it was hit in December 2023, well before the year even started.
What happens when there are more applicants than visas available?
Well, that's where it gets even more complicated. They use a lottery system to allocate the visas, which has its own set of controversies. Some argue it's not the most efficient way to ensure we're getting the best talent. It does seem like a rather arbitrary way to decide who gets to work in the country.
And what about after someone gets an H-1b visa? How long can they stay?
Initially, the visa is granted for 3 years, but it can be extended for another 3 years. After that, many visa holders hope to transition to permanent residency, but that process can be incredibly long and complicated, especially for people from countries countries with high rates of immigration to the U.S., like India. Some people end up in a kind of limbo, having to renew their H-1b visas year after year while waiting for a green card.
That sounds like a precarious position to be. You're contributing to the economy, but without any long-term security.
Exactly. Some critics have even described it as a form of indentured servitude because these workers are so dependent on their employers during this time. If they lose their job, they could lose their right to stay in the country. It's a lot of pressure.
So what's being done to address these issues? Are there any proposals for reform?
There have been various proposals over the years to reform the H-1B program, but so far, major changes have been elusive. Some suggestions include raising the salary requirements for H-1B workers to ensure they're not undercutting American wages, increasing the number of visas available, or changing the allocation system to prioritize certain skills or industries.
It sounds like there's no easy solution. How do you balance the needs of American workers with the demands of a global economy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just an economic issue. This debate is playing out against the backdrop of a larger conversation about immigration and what it means to be American. It's about how we see ourselves as a nation, what kind of country we want to be.
That's a great point. It's not just about visas and job numbers. It's about our national identity.
Absolutely. And as we've seen, even within the same political camp, there can be widely divergent views on it. It's going to be interesting to see how Trump navigates this issue. If he wins a second term, will he stick with his newfound enthusiasm for the program, or will he face pressure from his base to take a harder line?
And what about the tech companies that rely so heavily on these visas? How are they responding to all this uncertainty?
Well, they're definitely keeping a close eye on the situation. Companies like Google have noted in their financial filings that restrictive immigration policies could impact their ability to hire and retain global talent. And we've seen some companies respond by increasing their operations in other countries. A study found that restrictions on H-1B visas motivated U.S.-based multinational corporations to decrease the number of jobs they offer in this country and instead increase employment at their existing foreign affiliates or open new ones, particularly in India, China, and Canada.
Oh, that's it. So attempts to protect American jobs could potentially backfire by encouraging companies to move operations overseas.
That's one of the concerns, yes. It's a reminder of just how interconnected our global economy is. Actions taken in one area can have unexpected consequences in another. Now, another interesting aspect of this debate is the role H-1B workers played during the COVID-19 pandemic. Between fiscal years 2010 and 2019, 8 U.S. companies that later participated in developing COVID-19 vaccines received approvals for over 3,300 scientists through the H-1B program.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. These workers were contributing to critical research and development during a global crisis.
Exactly. And many medical doctors on the front lines of the pandemic were also here on H-1B visas. It's a reminder that these workers aren't just filling tech jobs. They're contributing across a wide range of fields, often in areas where we have critical shortages.
So where do we go from here? How do you think this debate will evolve?
Well, I think we're going to see continued discussion and likely some attempts at reform, regardless of who wins the next election. The challenge will be finding a solution that addresses the concerns of American workers while also maintaining our competitiveness in the global economy. It's going to require careful consideration and probably some compromise on all sides.
And in the meantime, I suppose it's important for all of us to stay informed about these issues. They may seem abstract, but they have real impacts on our economy, our community, and our national identity.
Couldn't agree more. Whether you're for or against the H-1B program, the most important thing is to base your opinion on facts, not fear or rhetoric. This is a complex issue that deserves thoughtful consideration.
All right, and that's all the time we have today for this episode of the Prima Law Podcast. We are sponsored by Prima.Law, that is immigration case management software for immigration attorneys and immigration professionals. If you want to build an accelerated practice that's efficient and profitable, you need Prima.Law. You can find a free 15-day trial at Prima.Law. Also, if you are an immigration attorney and you need people to work for you, you need real people who can get on the phone, they can follow up with the clients, they can assemble packages, they can do case review, I want you to get a hold of Bella Legal Assistance. The website is bella.legal. And there we have immigration paralegals who are ready to start working for you today. You don't need to train them. We've taken care of that for you. And lastly, if you're interested in immigration for immigrating a family member or maybe a loved one to the United States, our law firm, Betzold Law, also visafeliz.com, can help you with that. Schedule an appointment with us online at visafeliz.com or give us a call at 833-VISA-FELIZ.